The stars outside the observation deck were beautiful. Park Yuna stood near the window and watched them pass slowly. She was tired from 3 days of meetings, but she felt good. The trade summit had been a success. 9 different species had agreed to new trading terms, and peace seemed closer than ever before. The diplomatic vessel Starlight Harmony was the largest ship Yuna had ever been on. It carried over 2,000 passengers from across the galaxy. There were the tall, blue-skinned Threll with their 4 arms. There were the small, furry Nira, who spoke in high voices. There were the rock-like Bora, who moved slowly but thought quickly. And there were humans, of course. 53 humans in total, including Yuna and her team. Captain Lee Tai-ho walked up beside her. He was a large man with a calm face and sharp eyes. He had been a soldier for 20 years before becoming her security chief. Yuna trusted him completely. "Yuna should sleep, Ambassador," Tai-ho said. "We have 6 more hours before we reach the jump point." Yuna smiled. "I will. I just wanted to enjoy the quiet for a moment." Behind them, Lieutenant Kim Hannah was checking her datapad. She was young, only 28, but she had already proven herself many times. Her mind was quick, and she noticed things others missed. Right now she was frowning at her screen, Captain Hannah said, her voice low. "I am seeing something strange on the long-range sensors." Tai-ho turned to her. "What is it?" "Ships. Many ships. They appeared from behind the asteroid field about 10 minutes ago. They are moving toward us." Before Tai-ho could respond, the ship shook. The lights flickered and turned red. A loud alarm began to sound throughout the vessel. Yuna grabbed the railing to steady herself. What was that? The ship's communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was not the captain's. It was rough and cruel, speaking in heavily accented Galactic Common. "Attention passengers of the Starlight Harmony. This vessel now belongs to the Vex Syndicate. Do not resist. Do not try to escape. Anyone who fights back will be killed. Anyone who hides will be killed. Come to the main hall now, or you will be killed." Yuna's blood went cold. The Vex Syndicate. She had heard stories about them. Every spacefarer had. They were pirates, raiders, and slavers. They operated in the dark spaces between systems, and they showed no mercy to anyone. Governments had tried to stop them for decades, but they always survived. They always came back. "We need to move," Tai-ho said. He pulled Yuna away from the window. "Hannah, gather all human personnel. Tell them to stay together. Tell them to watch and wait for my signal." Hannah nodded and ran toward the crew quarters. They made their way through the corridors. Other passengers were already moving toward the main hall. The Threll were panicking, their 4 arms waving wildly. The Nero were crying and holding each other. The Bora moved in silence, but their stone faces showed fear. When they reached the main hall, Yuna saw the Vec for the first time. They were tall creatures, taller than humans. Their skin was gray and covered in hard scales. Their eyes were yellow with black slits like a snake. They carried large weapons and moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Standing at the center of the hall was their leader. He was larger than the others, with deep scars across his face and a metal claw replacing his left hand. This was Crix. Yuna recognized him from intelligence reports. He was the most wanted criminal in 12 star systems. Crix watched as the hostages filed into the room. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd with cold amusement. "So many important people," he said. "So many rich worlds who will pay to get you back." He walked among the crowd, pushing aside the smaller aliens who cowered before him. When he reached the human section, he stopped. He looked at Yuna for a long moment. "A human ambassador," he said. "Your species is new to the galaxy, young and foolish. But your worlds are rich. Your people will pay well for you." Yuna met his eyes without flinching. She said nothing. Crix smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I like your silence. Most species beg by now. They cry and promise anything, but you humans just stare." He leaned closer to her. "That silence will not save you." He turned away and raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Here is what will happen. I will contact your governments. I will demand payment. If they pay, you live. If they do not pay, you die. It is simple. One of the Thrall ambassadors stepped forward. Please, we will cooperate. Our governments will pay. There is no need for violence. Crix laughed. Of course there is need for violence. Violence is how we make sure everyone takes us seriously. He nodded to one of his soldiers. The soldier grabbed a young Nira aide and dragged her to the front of the room. The Nira screamed and struggled, but she was too small to fight back. The soldier threw her to the ground in front of Crix. This is a demonstration, Crix said. He raised his weapon. Yuna looked away as the shot echoed through the hall. The Nira's screams stopped. The crowd erupted in panic. Some tried to run, but the Vex soldiers pushed them back. Others fell to their knees and begged. The hall filled with the sounds of crying and pleading, but the humans were quiet. Taiho stood like a statue, his jaw tight and his eyes fixed on Crix. Hannah had her hands clenched into fists at her sides. The other humans in the crowd were the same. They did not cry. They did not beg. They watched. Crix noticed this. He tilted his head and looked at the human group with curiosity. Interesting, he said quietly. Then he turned to his soldiers. Take them to the holding areas. Separate them by species. Post guards at every door. We begin negotiations in 1 hour. As the soldiers herded the hostages out of the hall, Yuna felt Taiho's hand on her elbow. He leaned close and whispered in her ear, Stay calm. Watch everything. Count the guards. Note the patrol patterns. We are not going to wait for rescue. Yuna gave a small nod. She understood the galaxy had rules about hostage situations. You paid the ransom. You negotiated. You accepted losses. That was how things worked. That was how they had always worked. But the Vec did not know humans, and soon they would learn that humans had very different rules. The message reached Earth in less than an hour. It traveled through relay stations and communication networks until it arrived at the United Human Coalition. Command Center in Seoul, there. In a room deep underground, Admiral Cho Sunwoo read the demands on his screen. 500 billion galactic credits. Safe passage through human space for all Vec ships. The release of every Vec prisoner held in human custody. And they had 72 hours to comply, or the hostages would start dying. Sunwoo was 63 years old. He had gray hair, a lined face, and eyes that had seen too much war. He had fought in 3 different conflicts during his career. He had lost friends, soldiers, and family members to violence. He understood death better than most people, but this message made him feel something he had not felt in a long time. Cold, focused anger. He looked around the room at his staff. There were generals, admirals, intelligence officers, and diplomats. They were all waiting for him to speak. Get me the Galactic Council on the line, Sunwoo said, and activate all special operations units. We are going to need them. Within minutes, the holographic displays lit up with faces from across the galaxy. The Thrall ambassador appeared first, his blue face tight with worry. Then came the Nira representative, still shaking from the news. The Bora trade minister joined next, his stone features unreadable. Admiral Cho, the Thrall ambassador, said, This is a terrible situation, but we must remain calm. The Vex Syndicate has done this before. They take hostages, they make demands, and when they receive payment, they release their prisoners. This is how it works. We must pay. Sunwoo shook his head slowly. No, the word hung in the air. The alien representatives looked confused. What do you mean, no? The Nira representative asked. There are over 2,000 lives at stake. There are citizens from 9 different worlds. We cannot refuse. Humanity does not negotiate with terrorists, Sunwoo said. His voice was calm but hard. We do not pay ransoms. We do not reward violence. If we do, they will do this again, and again, and again. Every credit we pay today buys their bullets tomorrow. The Thrall ambassador leaned forward. Admiral, please be reasonable. This is not about pride or politics. This is about saving lives. Your own ambassador is among the hostages. Surely you would not risk her life for a principal. Sun Wu's eyes did not waver. Ambassador Park Yuna is a soldier in everything but title. She would be the first to tell you that we cannot give in to threats. And she would be right? Then what do you propose? The Bora trade minister asked. The Vek are powerful. Their fortress is hidden. Even if you wanted to fight, how would you find them? How would you reach them before they kill everyone? Sun Wu allowed himself a small smile. Leave that to us, he turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to all diplomatic frequencies. I want this message heard across the galaxy. The officer nodded and began working. A moment later, a green light appeared on Sun Wu's console. He was live. Messages for the Vek Syndicate, Sun Wu began. And for anyone else who might be listening, humanity has received your demands. We have considered them carefully. And here's our answer. He paused. Across the galaxy, billions of beings leaned closer to their screens. We will not pay your ransom. We will not release your criminals. We will not give you safe passage through our space. Instead, we give you this warning. Release our people within 48 hours unharmed, and we will allow you to leave. Refuse, and we will find you. We will come for you. And when we do, there will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. There will only be justice. He ended the transmission. The Galactic Council exploded with noise. The Threll ambassador shouted about diplomatic suicide. The Nera representative wept and called the humans insane. Even the calm Bora minister shook his head and muttered about young species not understanding how the galaxy worked. But Sun Wu was no longer listening. He had turned to his military staff. Where is the Vek fortress? He asked. General Beak stood up. He was a younger man, in his 40s, with a sharp mind and a reputation for impossible missions. We believe they are operating from an asteroid base in the Outer Rim. The location is hidden, but we have intelligence assets working on it. How long until we have exact coordinates? 12 hours? Maybe less, Sun Wu nodded. And the 77th Recovery Unit. Are they ready? General Beak smiled slightly. They have been ready since the moment we received the message. Major Beak Junho is personally leading the team. Your son? My son, the general confirmed. There is no one better. Sun Wu turned back to the council display. The alien representatives had calmed down slightly, but their faces still showed fear and disbelief. You are making a terrible mistake, the Threll ambassador said. The Vek will start killing hostages. They have done it before. Every hour you delay, more innocent people will die, and we will not delay, Sun Wu said simply. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Crix received the human response. He stood in his command center aboard the Fortress Dread Talon, surrounded by his lieutenants. The message played on the main screen, and when it finished, the room was silent. Then Crix began to laugh. It started as a chuckle and grew into a roar. He laughed until tears streamed from his yellow eyes. His lieutenants looked at each other nervously, unsure what to do. The humans refuse, Crix said when he finally stopped laughing. The little humans with their little planet think they can threaten me. They think they can scare the Vek Syndicate. He walked to the communication console and opened a channel to the Starlight Harmony. Bring me 2 of the hostages, he said. Not the humans. Not yet. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone defies us. Within the hour, 2 more hostages were dead. Their executions were broadcast on every channel. The galaxy watched in horror, but on Earth. In the underground command center, Sun Wu did not look away. He watched every second of the footage. He owed the victims that much. 12 hours, he said quietly. Hold on for 12 more hours. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a stealth carrier called the Ghost Veil was already moving. Inside, 40% of humanity's most dangerous soldiers were preparing for war. The Vek thought they were in control. They thought they held all the power. They had no idea that death was already coming for them, silent and patient. Humanity did not bargain with killers. Humanity buried them. The Ghost Veil was not a normal ship. It had no running lights. It made no engine noise that sensors could detect. Its hull was covered in material that absorbed radar and light, making it nearly invisible against the blackness of space. It was a ghost in every sense of the word. Inside, Major Beak Junho stood before his team. There were 40 of them in total, men and women from every branch of the human military. They were the 77th Recovery Unit, though they had many other names among those who knew of their existence. The Reapers, the Nightwalkers, the ones who come back. They had been called when all other options failed. They had rescued prisoners from enemy bases, retrieved stolen technology from hostile planets, and eliminated threats that no one else could touch. Their success rate was perfect. Their existence was classified. Junho was 35 years old, with short black hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. His father was a general, but Junho had earned his position through blood and skill, not family connections. Every soldier in the room respected him completely. "Listen carefully," Junho said. His voice was quiet, but carried through the silent room. "You all know the situation. The Vex Syndicate has taken the Starlight Harmony. They are holding over 2,000 hostages in their fortress, the Dread Talon. They expect us to pay. They expect us to be afraid. They are wrong." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed an asteroid roughly 20 kilometers across, covered in metal structures and weapons platforms. "This is the Dread Talon. The main fortress is built into the asteroid itself. There are 6 docking bays, 3 weapons towers, and a shield generator located here." He pointed to a spot near the center. "The hostages are being held in the lower levels, in what used to be mining tunnels. There are approximately 300 Vex soldiers inside." Sergeant Shin Mengi raised her hand. She was small, almost tiny compared to the other soldiers, but her file listed over 60 successful infiltration missions. She could move through spaces that seemed impossible and kill without making a sound. "What about external patrols?" she asked. 12 patrol ships," Junho answered. "They circle the asteroid in rotating patterns. Our window to approach undetected is approximately 15 minutes every 4 hours. Corporal Yundo Yan spoke next. He was the team's demolitions expert, a large man with gentle eyes and hands that could turn any object into a weapon. "What about the shields? If we cannot bring them down, we cannot get reinforcements in." "That is your job," Junho said. "Your team will hit the shield generator first. Once the shields are down, our fleet can move in to provide support and extraction. But until then, we are on our own." He looked around the room at his soldiers. They showed no fear, no hesitation. They had trained for missions like this their entire careers. "There's one more thing," Junho said. "We are not alone inside. Ambassador Park Yuna and her security team are among the hostages. Captain Lee Taiho and Lieutenant Kim Hana. They are former military. They know what we are coming, and I believe they are already preparing." This brought a murmur of approval from the team. The thought of hostages who would fight instead of cower changed things. "We will breach at 7 points simultaneously," Junho continued. "Team 1 takes the command center. Team 2 secures the docking bays. Team 3 handles the weapons towers. Team 4 takes the shield generator. Teams 5, 6, and 7 will move toward the hostage areas and secure them. Our priority is the civilians. We get them out first. Everything else is secondary." He paused and looked each soldier in the eyes. "The galaxy thinks we are crazy. They think we are foolish. They think we should pay the ransom like everyone else does. But we are not everyone else. We are human, and humans do not abandon their people." Minji smiled slightly. Do-yan nodded. The rest of the team straightened with pride. "We launch in 6 hours," Junho said. "Get some rest. Check your gear. And remember why we fight." Soldiers dispersed to prepare. Junho remained standing before the hologram, studying every detail of the fortress far away aboard the Starlight Harmony. Another kind of preparation was happening. Yuna sat in the corner of the holding cell, her back against the cold metal wall. The cell was large, designed to hold cargo, not people. Around her were the other human hostages, all 53 of them. They had been separated from the alien prisoners, held in their own section. Taiho sat beside her, his eyes constantly moving. He watched the guards through the small window in the door. He counted their footsteps, timed their patrols, noted when they changed shifts. For guards at the main entrance, he said quietly, 2 more at the end of the corridor. They change every 3 hours. The next change is in 40 minutes. Hannah approached them, moving casually to avoid drawing attention. In her hand, she held a small device made from pieces of scavenged electronics. It looked like nothing important. It was actually a short-range communicator. "I got it working," she whispered. "Limited range, but enough to listen to their communications. They're using encrypted channels, but their encryption is old. I can break it with a few more hours." Una nodded. "Good. What about weapons?" "Nothing obvious," Hannah admitted. "But I have been talking to the others. We have engineers, scientists, and former soldiers among us. If we can get access to the maintenance areas, we can make things work." Taiho glanced at the door again. "We need to wait for the right moment. When the rescue comes, and it will come, we need to be ready to move. We cannot just sit here and hope they save us." Una agreed. She had spent her career as a diplomat, talking and negotiating. But before that, she had been a soldier. She knew how to fight. She knew how to lead. And she knew that humans never gave up. "Spread the word," she said to the others, quietly. "Tell everyone to prepare. When the moment comes, we fight together." The message passed from person to person in whispers and glances. The engineers began mentally cataloging what materials they could find. The former soldiers started stretching their muscles and planning formations. Even the civilians, the scientists, and diplomats looked at each other with new determination. The Vec guards outside noticed nothing. They saw 53 quiet, obedient humans sitting in a cargo hold. They saw weakness. They did not understand what they were looking at. They did not understand that humans were never truly helpless. Every human carried within them millions of years of survival instinct, of fighting against impossible odds, of refusing to die. Other species had evolved on peaceful worlds, rising to dominance without challenge. Humans had clawed their way to the top of a planet that tried to kill them every day. The guards saw prisoners. The prisoners saw an opportunity. And in the darkness of space, the ghost veil moved closer, carrying 40 soldiers who had never failed. The clock was ticking. The galaxy was about to learn. What happened when you threatened humanity? At R68, the Vec fortress was quiet. The guards walked their patrols. The sensors showed nothing but empty space. Crix sat in his command center, watching the clock and smiling. In 4 more hours, he would execute another group of hostages. Then the galaxy would pay. They always paid. He did not know that death had already arrived. The ghost veil had slipped past. The patrol ships during the 15-minute window, it now hung in the shadow of a nearby asteroid, invisible and waiting. Inside, Major Junho and his 40 soldiers sat in drop pods ready to launch. "All teams, final check," Junho said through his communicator. One by one, the team leaders reported in. Weapons loaded. Suits sealed. Hearts steady, remember, Junho said. "We hit hard and fast. No hesitation. No mercy. These people took our civilians. They killed innocents. They made their choice. Now we make ours." At R16-9, Junho gave the order. Launch. The drop pods fired from the ghost veil like silent bullets. They had no engines that could be detected. They used small bursts of compressed gas to adjust their course. They were invisible against the stars. 7 pods. 7 targets. 40 soldiers falling through space toward an enemy who had no idea. They were coming. Minji was in the lead pod heading for the ventilation systems. She watched the fortress grow larger through her small window. Her heart was calm. Her mind was focused. She had done this 100 times. The pod hit the asteroid's surface with a soft thump. The magnetic clamps engaged. The hatch opened. Minji crawled out onto the rocky surface. Around her, her team did the same. They moved quickly toward the ventilation intake, a large metal grate that sucked air into the fortress. Within seconds, they had cut through it and slipped inside. At the same moment, Do-Yun's team breached through an old mining tunnel. His explosives were already armed and ready. His target was the shield generator. Buried deep in the asteroid's core, Juno's team hit the outer hole near the command center. They used cutting tools to slice through the metal, quiet and quick. When the hole was large enough, they dropped inside. For the first 90 seconds, no alarms sounded. Minji's team moved through the ventilation shafts like shadows. They came upon a guard station from above. 3 Vex soldiers sat inside watching monitors and talking. They never looked up. Minji dropped from the vent like a falling leaf. Her knife found the first guard's throat before he could make a sound. Her teammates took the other 2 just as quickly. 3 bodies hit the floor. No alarm. In the command center corridor, Junho's team met their first real resistance. A patrol of 5 Vex soldiers turned the corner and froze when they saw the humans. For 1 second, no one moved. Then Junho raised his weapon and fired. The firefight lasted for seconds. 5 Vex bodies fell. 2 human soldiers took minor wounds. They kept moving. Now the alarms finally sounded. The entire fortress woke up. Lights flashed red. Sirens screamed. Crix jumped from his seat in the command center and shouted orders. Intruders! Find them. Kill them. But it was too late. Do-Yun's team had already reached the shield generator. It was a massive machine, humming with energy, protected by thick walls and heavy doors. The Vex engineers inside tried to fight back, but they were not soldiers. They fell quickly. Charges set, Do-Yun said into his communicator. 30 seconds to detonation. All teams brace for impact, Junho replied. The explosion shook the entire asteroid. The shield generator died in a ball of fire. Outside, the protective field around the fortress flickered and disappeared. The human fleet, waiting at the edge of the system, began its approach. But inside the fortress, the battle was far from over. Crix knew what was happening now. His fortress was under attack. His shields were down. His enemies were inside. He had only 1 card left to play: kill the hostages. He screamed into his communicator, "Kill them all. If we cannot have the ransom, no one gets anything." The order went out to every guard in the fortress. The soldiers guarding the hostage areas raised their weapons and turned toward the prisoners. But they were too late. In the human holding area, Taiho had been listening to the Vex communications through Hannah's improvised device. The moment he heard Crix's order, he stood up. "Now," he shouted. The humans moved as one. Taiho hit the door with his shoulder. It was not designed to resist force from inside. It buckled. He hit it again, and it flew open. The 2 guards outside turned in surprise. Taiho grabbed the first one's weapon and twisted it away. His elbow smashed into the guard's face. The guard fell. The second guard tried to aim, but Hannah was already there. She jabbed her fingers into his throat, then kicked his legs out from under him. More humans poured out of the cell. They had made weapons from anything they could find. Metal pipes, broken equipment, even pieces of furniture sharpened into points. The Vex had numbers and technology. The humans had rage and determination. The corridor became a battleground. Vex soldiers ran toward the hostage areas, only to find humans fighting back with savage intensity. The aliens were confused. Hostages were supposed to cower. Hostages were supposed to beg. These humans did neither. Yuna led a group toward the alien prisoners. The Threll, Nira, and Bora were still locked in their cells, terrified and helpless. The guards outside had been distracted by the alarm. They did not see Yuna coming. She had picked up a fallen guard's sidearm. She was not a soldier anymore, but her hands remembered the training. She raised the weapon and fired twice. Both guards fell. "Get him out," she ordered. "Get everyone out." When Junho's team finally reached the hostage levels, they expected to find a rescue mission. Instead, they found a battlefield. Human civilians stood among fallen Vex bodies, breathing hard, some wounded, all still fighting. Taiho was at the center, covered in alien blood, directing people like a general. Hannah was beside him, already organizing the freed alien hostages into groups. Yuna stood at the entrance, the sidearm still in her hand. When she saw Junho, she smiled tiredly. "You were late, Major," she said. Junho looked around at the chaos, at the human civilians who had refused to die, at the aliens they had saved, despite everything. "I see you started without us," he said. "We got tired of waiting." Outside, the human fleet had arrived. Transport ships were already docking. Vec patrol ships were fleeing or surrendering. The battle was almost over. In the command center, Crix made his last stand. He fought like a cornered animal, killing 2 human soldiers before Junho put 3 rounds in his chest. The pirate lord fell to his knees. Blood poured from his wounds. His yellow eyes looked up at Junho with something like confusion. "Why?" he gasped. "Why did you not just pay?" "Everyone pays." Junho looked down at him without pity. "We are not everyone," he said. "We are human." Crix died with those words in his ears. The fortress fell silent. The mission was complete. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Every communication network, every news channel, every planet with a receiver heard the same story. The Vex Syndicate had been destroyed. The hostages had been rescued. And the humans had done the impossible. At first, no one believed it. The Threll Grand Council demanded confirmation. The Nera Federation thought it was propaganda. The Bora Trade Ministry insisted it must be an exaggeration. The Vec were too powerful, too well hidden, too dangerous. No one could have found them, attacked them, won in less than 72 hours. Then the footage leaked to someone. Perhaps a soldier or a journalist on the rescue ships had recorded everything. The video files spread through the network like a virus, impossible to contain or delete. Soon, every being in the galaxy could watch what had happened. They saw human soldiers dropping from invisible ships onto an asteroid fortress. They saw them moving through corridors like ghosts, killing enemies before alarms could sound. They saw explosions and gunfire and impossible bravery. But it was the footage from inside the hostage areas that shocked everyone the most. They saw human civilians fighting back. Diplomats and scientists and ordinary people attacking armored soldiers with improvised weapons. They saw Ambassador Park Yuna firing a stolen weapon with cold precision. They saw Captain Lee Tai-ho breaking an enemy's neck with his bare hands. They saw Lieutenant Kim Hanna leading terrified alien hostages to safety while enemy fire flew around her. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Every other species had their own way of dealing with danger. The Threll surrendered and negotiated. The Nera hid and waited. The Bora calculated losses and accepted them. This was wisdom. This was survival. This was how civilized beings behaved. But the humans did not surrender. They did not hide. They did not calculate acceptable losses. They fought. They bled. And they won. A week after the rescue, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Every species sent their highest representatives. The chamber was filled with more beings than had ever gathered there before. And in the center, standing before them all, was Admiral Cho Sunwoo. The Threll ambassador spoke first. His voice was careful, measured, but there was fear underneath. "Admiral Cho, the Council wishes to understand what happened at the Dread Talon. Your species ignored all diplomatic protocols. You refused to negotiate. You launched an attack that everyone believed was impossible. And you, succeeded." "We did." "How?" the ambassador asked. "How did you find them? How did you breach their defenses? How did your civilians fight like soldiers?" Sunwoo was silent for a moment. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of faces watching him. Aliens who had thought humans were a young, foolish species. Aliens who had expected them to fail. Aliens who now looked at them with something new in their eyes. "I will answer your questions," Sunwoo said. "But first, I will explain something about my species that you may not understand." He stepped forward, his voice carrying through the silent chamber. "Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We had predators that hunted us, diseases that killed us by the millions, an environment so harsh that survival seemed impossible. We did not have 4 arms like the Threll. We did not have the nearest speed. We did not have the Bora's natural armor. We had only our minds, our will, and each other. He paused, letting the words sink in. We survived because we refused to give up. When a predator was too strong to fight, we learned to hunt in groups. When a disease killed our families, we learned medicine. When our lands became deserts, we walked 1,000 miles to find new homes. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the smartest. But we are the most stubborn. We simply will not die. The chamber remained silent. You asked how our civilians fought like soldiers, Sun Wu continued. The answer is simple. To a human, there is no difference. Every human carries within them the spirit of every ancestor who survived against impossible odds. When you threaten us, when you take our people, you are not facing soldiers or civilians. You are facing the entire weight of human history. He turned to face the entire council. You also asked how we found the Vec. We have been tracking their movements for years, waiting for the right moment. You asked how we breached their defenses. We have spent generations developing tools and tactics for exactly these situations. We learned them on Earth, fighting each other before we ever reached the stars. We are very, very good at war. The Threll ambassador shifted uncomfortably. Is that a threat, Admiral? No, Sun Wu said simply. It is a fact. Humanity does not want war. We want peace and trade and cooperation, but we will not be victims. We will not pay tribute to criminals, and we will never, ever abandon our people. He looked directly at the recording devices, knowing his words would be broadcast across the galaxy. Let this be a warning to anyone who thinks of targeting human civilians. We do not bargain with killers. We do not make deals with terrorists. If you take our people, we will find you. If you hurt our people, we will destroy you. There is no ransom large enough, no fortress strong enough, no distance far enough. We will come, and we will not stop until our people are safe and those responsible are dust. The chamber was completely silent. Then, slowly, the Nira ambassador rose from her seat. She turned to her aide and spoke in a whisper that the microphone still caught. Remove all human ships from our ... interest lists. All of them. Permanently. Similar murmurs spread through the chamber. Species after species quietly updated their policies, their calculations, their threat assessments. The message was clear. Do not touch the humans. 3 months later, Yuna returned to diplomatic service. The scars on her arms had healed, but she moved differently now. She smiled more easily. She spoke with more authority. Other ambassadors treated her with new respect. Taiho was promoted to colonel and given command of a new security division. Hannah received the Silver Star and was offered a position in military intelligence. She accepted. Major Junho and the soldiers of the 77th remained classified. Their faces never appeared in the news. Their names were never spoken publicly. They returned to the shadows, waiting for the next mission that no one else could complete, but in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Among pirates and raiders and those who preyed on the weak, stories spread. Stories about silent ships and impossible soldiers. Stories about hostages who fought back. Stories about a species that would cross the entire galaxy to bring their people home. Some species called it madness. Others called it frightening. A few, the wisest ones, called it beautiful. The universe was vast and cold and dangerous, but the humans had each other. And for humans, that had always been enough. The galaxy had learned its lesson. You could steal from the Threll. You could threaten the Nira. You could even challenge the mighty Bora, but you did not touch the humans, not unless you wanted to find out why they had survived so long on a world that had tried so hard to kill them. Not unless you wanted to meet the ghost ships in the dark. Not unless you wanted to die.